Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Alright, guys, today's date, April 28, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. This is How the Frack We Got Here. Twice. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. We are running a little bit late today, guys, simply put, because the joint session address to Congress by President Joe Biden, and of course we waited for the only black person in the Republican Party, Senator Tim Scott, to give his response. Before I do get started, this is family friendly, even though I do try to watch my language, but there are some things that we may show that may be of a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Let's go ahead and actually just get the elephant out the room out of the way. Like I said, the reason why we delayed doing the podcast was because of the joint session address. This was not an official State of the Union address. This was an address by both houses of Congress in which Nancy Pelosi invited President Biden to come and speak. This would have been the president's first address of Congress that wasn't an official State of the Union address. And as you can probably tell, he did go over some notes, which I can't blame Biden for. He did actually explain that, we're now 200 million shots in. We're about nearly a quarter of our total population has already been vaccinated. We're working on trying to get as much immunization out as humanly possible. He did stress about the wearing of masks and things of that nature, still stressing that. He did actually talk about the infrastructure bill, which again was one of the many bills he was pushing out there today. His near infrastructure bill, which will repair crumbling bridges and roads across the U.S., as well as work on our IT infrastructure, which is woefully underdeveloped. He actually talked also about the Violence Against Women Act. He also talked about the executive order, which I'm going to cover a little bit later on, about the executive order that he signed to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Note, I said federal, I did not say national, so that's something you guys need to keep in touch about as well. And he actually did talk about the Asian American COVID-19 hate crime bill, which was specifically targeting Asian Americans. He did also talk about the LGBT protection plan. He also did talk about the George Floyd police reform bills, all that he's asking Congress to simply send to his desk. Needless to say, overall, his speech did hit some interesting some views about things. I do see he's still in the middle of the road when it comes to police reform. He wants to, hold police accountable, but still wants to commend those out there for doing a great job. Kind of saw that one coming. And also at the same time, he did mention, of course, the Equal Pay Act in order to make sure that women are paid just as much as men in the working world. And at the same time, he did stress about the importance of having a Madam Vice President and a Madam House Speaker at the same time, which again, he was completely correct. That has never happened in the history of the government that we know now. That also being said, like I said, it really was a good speech. It did actually explain that, we're doing things right, and that's great. At the same time, we're still not done. There's still many bills out here. Where the part of this where a lot of people don't get is that, yes, in order for us to get us out of this hole that we're in, the government is going to be having to do some spending because, for history has always taught us, Republicans have spent us into debt. We have to spend it to actually get out of debt. Same way with Bush and putting 2 wars on a corporate credit card, and then Obama spent his 2 terms getting us out of that hole and kind of getting into a nearly stable environment. Unfortunately, Trump has decided to go ahead and take that 8 years of stability and kill it inside of 4 years. So that's why Biden again has to do the things that should have been done a long time ago. Infrastructure is one of the biggest things that our government really has been kicking down the road. I can't knock him for wanting to push his infrastructure plan because he wants this whole thing of buying American, having American factories build solar, build steel, build components that can actually go into rebuilding these roads and things of that nature. I get the whole thing that he's trying to do and the hard sell to the Republicans because if you guys noticed during the joint session address, not a lot of them stood up for half the stuff he was talking about. Although all Democrats were all for it. But then again, that explains our current system as a whole. Like I said, overall, not a bad speech. Now, of course, because with every presidential address, there's always a other party response. And I still can't believe I'm saying this. Senator Tim Scott was the Republican Party's choice as he's seen as a possible presidential candidate moving forward and was supposed to give the rebuttal to the joint session address by President Biden. I can sum it down to three things that all he talked about. His grandfather, Republican old talking points, and religion. Which is basically, if you think about it, is exactly how the Republican Party works. Religion, family values, hidden racism. With that being said, I mean, don't get me wrong about Tim Scott. Keep in mind, Tim Scott got in on the Tea Party wave on the second term of President Obama. The Tea Party actually came in and literally took seats because of them saying about the overreach of government. And the simple fact of the matter is they don't want government oversight and reduce spending and things of that nature, and did the exact opposite of what they were actually coming into office to do for in the first place. Tim Scott's no different. Again, Tim Scott did point out the fact that, oh yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great as far as vaccinations go. If it wasn't for Operation Warp Speed, we never got this far. Here's the problem with Operation Warp Speed that Republicans love to talk about. Yes, President Trump did acknowledge the simple fact of the matter that something had to be done, and did actually enforce all the powers he could, including the National Defense Act, to get vaccines done at a human pace. He also sat there and told people to take chlorine, hydrochloroquine, take bleach, stand outside, go outside in the summertime because the heat will kill everything. And at the same time, it will just disappear on its own as if some magical wand came through and said we're all good now. Yes, Trump said all of those things. And again, Tim Scott, the lone black Republican, you know, that one black friend every racist and bigot says that they know, that's Tim Scott. So, with that being said, it's amazing that Tim Scott, thanked Trump for the fact that the Biden effort, which he was able to do in his first 100 days of office, under 100 days of office, versus what Trump couldn't do in almost a year. Yeah, Operation Warp Speed had a lot to do with that. He also sat there and said about his police reform bill. Now, again, Tim Scott isn't wrong. He did introduce a police reform bill some time ago. However, the bill itself is shaky at best. He sat there and said, I submitted a bill for police reform, and the Democrats on the other side basically filibustered it to kill the bill. Well, here's the problem with your bill, Mr. Tim Scott. The bill that you wanted to put out so well, which amazing to me, which was also supported at the time by the Trump administration, and yet could not seem to get past Mitch McConnell. Do you know what that bill was about? Number one, the bill was asking for transparency on no-knock warrants and the use of chokeholds. It also sat there and said there needs a study to be done on the effects of black boys and men when it comes to education and housing and also law enforcement interaction. And he just got through talking about wasteful spending. But again, I'm not surprised by this. This is the Republican, honestly guys, this is the Republicans' attack form. Because they know, and I keep saying this, guys, midterm elections are next year. Midterm elections, which means that the Senate and the House will be open for election. That means, and unfortunately in my state of Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn's going to go around very soon trying to get her votes to keep her Senate seat. And also our other representatives will be doing the same thing. And I wish we could kind of vote out our governor, but that's a whole nother story. But again, with Tim Scott, he repeated the same Republican talking points. Democrats are liberals. They want to spend on everything. They don't care about how this is going to get paid. You know, if we raise taxes, it'll kill jobs. If we do this, it'll kill jobs. Yet, when Republicans gave tax cuts to corporations and rich people, no jobs were created. Funny how that works when you give your money to your constituents. But again, like I said, guys, I expected nothing more from the GOP rebuttal. It's just the same old talking points. It's just their own people who vote for Republican are really too ignorant to pay attention. Yes, I call Republican voters ignorant. I have no other way I can say that. But we're going to go ahead and go into the stories that we do got, guys. Speaking of things that are crazy, former officer Amber Geiger is basically asking an appeals court to toss out the murder conviction for killing Botham Jean. Keep in mind, in 2019, she was convicted of murder. It only got 10 years. I know it's messed up, but that's the way it is, because again, when you had the brother, and then the brother and the judge both hug her, and then the bailiff decided to straighten out her hair, we shouldn't be surprised. But that being said, she is testifying. She has actually won the appeals court to throw out the murder conviction and basically assign her a less harsh criminal negligent, a less harsher crime, such as criminally negligent homicide. I apologize. Which that charge is a lesser felony and punishable up to 2 years in prison. Keep in mind, Amber Geiger has only served so far a single year of her 10-year prison sentence. With possible parole in 7. Yes, she could be possibly paroled in 7 years. Now, of course, this comes off the heels of the Derek Chauvin case, in which Derek Chauvin is currently waiting for sentencing in June for his crime. I mean, he was found guilty of all charges, so he could be seeing close to 45 or more plus years in prison. Excuse me. That being said about Amber Geiger, it's sad. Because again, I'm going to be honest, I expect this to be thrown out just because she is asking the court because of why. The murder charge is too much. I'm sorry, you went into another person's apartment that wasn't yours, killed the person that wasn't expecting you because they were in their own home, and then you expect to get a lesser charge because what? You made a mistake? I'm sorry. It's a little hard to make a mistake about going to the wrong floor of an apartment of a key that doesn't work that you shouldn't even been in the first place. Hard to feel sorry for you. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this as well. Of course, Biden did talk about this in his joint address session with Congress. He did sign an executive order yesterday to do a $15 minimum wage increase for federal contract workers. Now, keep in mind, I said federal. I did not say a national. So any of those that work, so people that work for the state and on federal contracts will be seeing this $15 increase. As it will start from January up to $10.59 an hour, up until it eventually moves up to $15 an hour. Now, do not get me wrong, it's not a bad idea. It does help federal workers. However, the national minimum wage is still $7.29 an hour and hasn't changed since 2009. It is bound to change eventually. I was hoping that President Biden would just go ahead and do what needs to be done, considering the fact that the budget reconciliation that they did to pass his COVID relief bill, that the increase, the $15 an hour increase for minimum wage, had to be thrown out. I was thinking that Biden did have an alternative, that he could turn around and sign an executive order forcing Congress to have the bill be heard. Again, I commend it for federal workers because it does mean they're going to get an increase. However, there is still going to be those that are in those areas, whether it's fast food, retail, or industry, or other industries, that are still going to be seeing minimum wage, and I think that's a mistake. I would hope that Biden, or at least someone on the seat, at least one of the senators, would bring that to the floor to allow one of the senators, especially on Democrats, would go back to Chuck Schumer, who is still the Senate Majority Leader for now, and actually bring that to the floor to make that law. Because again, Democrats, with your slim majority, you are still on the clock until next year when the midterms happen, which you think you kind of be in a hurry-up offense right now. But again, guys, I still commend it. Federal workers will still see it, but overall, we do need a increase to the national minimum wage. You know, it's amazing that we're about to go 2021. We're already 4 months into 2021, a quarter of it already, and yet we're still waiting to get past a minimum wage increase. To me, that is freaking amazing and kind of sad at the same time. Moving right along, guys. Again, I have to go back to my home state of Tennessee, and forgive me, I'm already face-palming this already. Oh boy. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, or as I like to call him, Idiot Lee, declares that COVID-19 is no longer a health emergency with only 25% of the state's residents fully vaccinated. I cannot make this up. Governor Bill Lee signaled Tuesday that he will not renew any public health orders, saying that COVID-19 is no longer a health emergency in our state. Yes, he said it. Because again, and this is his point, a widely available vaccine changes everything and it's a new season in Tennessee. Keep in mind, 25% of Tennessee has been reported to be vaccinated. What he has basically done, guys, as you know, for anybody that's followed Tennessee, Governor Lee has never actually issued a statewide mask mandate, even though multiple times, because again, there are just some people, I will never understand this for as long as I live, there are some people out there who have a thing against wearing masks. I shouldn't wear a mask because it's my right, it's my body, it's my choice. It is amazing the hypocrisy of people who don't want to put a mask on and say it's my choice, but yet don't understand when a woman says it's my body, it's my choice. I find the hypocrisy amazing. But again, with Governor Bill Lee, he pretty much sat there and said because health experts are still holding on to herd immunity. Herd immunity. I cannot tell you guys how many times I've done this podcast and herd immunity keeps coming up like it's the end-all, be-all. And I keep explaining herd immunity time and time again, where, again, the chances of herd immunity for the COVID-19 virus and its variants will be ineffective. Even though health experts do say to reach herd immunity, somewhere between 75 to 80% of the population needs to be immunized. And again, even if we went by that, we would still be woefully under what would be considered herd immunity. Even though, again, Governor Bill Lee believes that, hey, 25% is good enough, as he has sat there and said not only will he not issue a mask mandate, he will remove the ability for others to issue a mask mandate. Now, of course, that doesn't mean anything for businesses and stores. Businesses and stores can still issue, because of their own businesses, can still request or just demand that you do wear a mask, which, thank God, stores and retail places still do that. But it is amazing to me that not only is Governor Lee not still sticking with a statewide mask mandate, he is also taking the ability from officials to issue that. Wait. So not only would you not make a decision on the mask mandate, you are now going to sit there and say, oh, anybody else that tries to do it? No, I will not allow you that ability. And again, this is why I call Governor Bill Lee an idiot. Because he is not only trying to do this, he is trying to actually get us back to fully opening like Texas. And for anybody who doesn't know, Texas just recently had nearly 80,000 cases of COVID-19 in the last 2 weeks. Tennessee, 21,000 new cases, more than 1,000 cases a day since the mask mandate ended Sunday. But genius. Anyway, speaking of the CDC, guys, CDC did actually have some new guidelines for those that are mask mandated that, again, everybody should pay very close attention to.
When you are fully vaccinated, you can return to many activities safely, and most of them outdoors and unmasked, and begin to get back to normal. And the more people who are vaccinated, the more steps we can take towards spending time with people we love, doing the things we love to enjoy.
The bottom line is clear. If you're vaccinated, you can do more things more safely, both outdoors as well as indoors.
Okay, don't get me wrong about the CDC. I've been saying the whole entire time we do need to follow the CDC protocols and Dr. Fauci and the National Health Institute and, of course, the World Health Organization. Pretty much all the very known and credible doctors associations out there, we do need to follow just because of the fact of the matter is that COVID-19 is just that dangerous. Now, do not get me wrong. As people are vaccinated, yes, you can kind of relax along the lines of what you can and cannot do. I'm not dissing. I am not demoting what the CDC is saying because again, you still should be wearing a mask, especially indoors among areas where it may not be crowded. But again, it still might not be exactly empty either. I mean, even when I go to the gym, I still wear a mask, even though the gym that I go to isn't requiring you wear a mask anymore. It's just because, again, it's more of a better safe than sorry situation because, again, Tennessee's only 25% vaccinated, and you still have a whole bunch of special individuals out there who will not get the shot, and most of them live in the South. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say most of them live in the South. That's wrong. But I will say a good majority of them live in Tennessee that have vocalized their opinions, and until we actually get that number up or I start feeling better about it, I'll still wear a mask wherever I go. It's only because, again, you don't know everyone. We don't know what. It's like almost like a concealed carry. Everybody can conceal carry, but again, it doesn't make you actually safe, in my opinion, because again, I don't know you, and I treat that the same. I treat that the same way that I treat with COVID. Aside from that, guys, the next thing I'm going to show is going to be a little sad side. The reason why, again, this might seem a little bit graphic, but pretty much Colorado police officers were laughing over body cam footage of older woman's violent arrest. I wish I could make this up. Viewer discretion advised.
Do you need to be arrested right now? No. Okay. Let's stop. Come on.
I'm going home.
Crazy, right? The simple fact of the matter, guys, is that the Colorado police basically were laughing over body cam footage of a 73-year-old woman that had dementia, and not only was arrested and excessive force was used, they decided to go back and watch it like their own personal sports center highlight reel. As of right now, those officers are on administrative leave, and an independent agency is actually investigating the Loveland Police Department, as they should, as well as City of Loveland. I don't blame the woman there, the arrested woman, for actually going back and suing as she should. But again, this goes back to what I've sat there and said. When people say that police reform does not need to happen, when you see stuff like this, when you literally see juvenile behavior, that's pretty much what we kind of deal with nowadays. You might have, like, again, it's hard to sit there and say, it is difficult to sit there and say that you have good law enforcement out there when, again, you see that happen when nobody's looking, when nobody's around. But there's supposedly just a few bad apples, right? So they say. Yeah, but we'll follow that story as it comes along. Going forward, guys, I did want to hop on the Andrew Brown case, which, again, two things did actually happen about that. Of course, the day before yesterday, an autopsy did reveal what we kind of already figured would happen with Mr. Brown.
Speaking at a press conference along with attorneys representing the family of Andrew Brown Jr., they just released preliminary results from an independent autopsy that they say was conducted on Andrew Brown on behalf of. And they say that autopsy shows Brown was shot, or at least bullets penetrated him 5 times, 4 times in the arm, and then they believe the fatal shot was one to the back of the head. And so I want to bring in Victor Oquendo in Elizabeth City and former homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona, and as well as ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton, to unpack all of this a little bit. And Bernardo, I'll start with you. We hear again, all of the accounts that we have about what happened that day between Andrew Brown Jr. and the police are all according to the family and the family's attorneys and based on this 20 seconds of body cam video that they say they were able to see, because we're still waiting for body cam video to potentially be released to the public. So.
Okay, and I apologize, guys. The volume was a little bit low there, but I'll repeat what she said. That the family did ask for an independent autopsy of Mr. Brown's body. That they said there were 5 shots fired, 4 in the back. 1 in the back of the head was a killing shot. And of course, we kind of already figured that since the report said that Mr. Brown was actually fleeing from law enforcement. As law enforcement claims, they were just following up on a routine felony warrant for drug possession, as they tried to again cite Mr. Brown's previous history. Of course, the body cam footage that she did, that the previous reporter did mention, the North Carolina judge did make a ruling on this, and again, we're not surprised.
Has been silenced. So his voice now on those cameras.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's how he will speak to us. And that will be his side of the story.
Andrew Brown Jr.'s family say they now will have a better account of what happened during the shooting last Wednesday, now that a judge has ruled members of the family can review additional body camera footage from the deputies.
I guess justice will serve. I feel good about it. Situation.
Wednesday afternoon, Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Foster cited in part overwhelming interest to the family for his ruling, which requires the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Department to allow Brown's adult son, Khalil Farabee, and one attorney licensed in the state to view footage from 5 videos recorded by body cameras within the next 10 days. As for the public,
the video be held from release for a period of no less than 30 days and no more than 45 days.
The judge also ruled the names and faces of the officers will be blurred to protect their identities. We caught up with County Sheriff Tommy Wooten, who told us he wanted the judge to allow the public to see the recordings.
I have to respect the DA and the judge's wishes, so we're gonna do that and follow North Carolina law.
Is this the outcome that you were hoping for or looking for?
Not totally, no sir.
Well, what would have been the ideal outcome for you?
Release.
Full release.
Because? For the community, transparency.
Sheriff Wooten in support of the public seeing the body cam video after the Pasquotank County District Attorney Andrew Womble told the court body camera footage shows Brown's car came into contact with law enforcement twice before he says they opened fire.
The next movement of the car is forward. It is in the direction of law enforcement and makes contact with law enforcement. It is then and only then that you hear shots.
Womble also strongly criticized Brown family attorney Chantel Cherry Lassiter of misleading the public with her comments about what she saw on a 20-second clip of body camera footage she viewed on Monday.
They were designed to prejudice a proceeding
At no time have I given any misrepresentations. I still stand by what I saw.
Brown's family says they want to see for themselves if his car made contact with any of the deputies.
Not buying it.
Do you think what the authorities will then argue going forward is that gave them a reason, a justified reason to shoot?
Shoot on our man.
And that's what they'll be looking at. Now, again, I'm not surprised that the judge did allow the family members to view the footage. However, not surprised that they are not going to release the body cam footage out to the public, because they've seen what happened when you see a bunch of cops killing an unarmed black man, because the cops go to jail. But I'm not surprised by this, guys. Like I said before, again, it's hard to sit there, and the excuse that they use, the DA is using, is that Brown's car hit a deputy, and of course, apparently hit a deputy twice, and that involved lethal force. It's hard to see anything from 50 yards away and say that that Mr. Brown was using his car as a lethal vehicle. However, we will still follow that as it goes along. But again, I think it's kind of weak sauce. But I'm kind of weirdly impressed by the sheriff that he wanted the body cam footage released out to the public. And I keep saying this. I have a theory about body cam footage that when police are ready to release it and they release it immediately, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't show them 9 times out of 10 it actually exonerates them. It's like, again, we actually had a shooting here in Nashville where the woman, I can't remember her name right now, but the woman actually shot the police officer. She shot first after the police officer tried to de-escalate the situation, and Metro Nashville PD released the body cam footage on the dash cam footage immediately. However, I have noticed that when the police officer in the wrong, however, they do their best to shield the evidence away, as they call it prejudicing the community, which again, I said it best. Sometimes you have to put it out there for the world to see it in order to actually get the convictions that you need to get the right people in jail. Because I do not feel bad about Derek Chauvin. That's how they got him. They didn't get him just because a whole bunch of people got him. They got him because the whole world saw him kill a black man. Not surprised. But again, that's one of the other stories. Another story that we do have an update on the Ahmaud Arbery case. The 3 Georgia men that were charged will now be charged with hate crimes and attempted kidnapping, along with their murder charges. Now, this was actually just announced just today regarding these new charges. For all of those that don't remember, Ahmaud Arbery was jogging in a section of Georgia in which 3 Georgia men decided to stalk, follow, and eventually kill the young black man after staying of recent robberies in their neighborhoods, even though Ahmaud Arbery did not have a history or a record whatsoever. So again, excuse me, the Justice Department is definitely going with hate crimes, and it said the only reason they went after him was because of his race. Now, what does this mean? Hate crimes do carry felonies, at the same time do carry life imprisonment, or almost end up to the death penalty if those 3 individuals are found guilty of a hate crime. I really hope that at this point, along with those murder charges, that definitely would mean life imprisonment, as I think Georgia has actually sentenced anybody to death in almost 20 years, give or take. But again, we'll follow that story as it goes along. Another story I did want to go over was the Justice Department. With Merrick Garland as the new Attorney General, he has actually announced 2 things that he's looking into, and one of them may actually be some justice for Breonna Taylor, hopefully.
Merrick Garland today announced a federal investigation into the Louisville Police Department over their handling of the Breonna Taylor case more than a year after her shooting death by police who raided her home. Let's now bring in ABC's Rachel Scott in Washington. Rachel, what will the Justice Department be investigating in Louisville?
Well, Lindsay, tonight we are learning that this is going to be a sweeping investigation, really looking into all aspects and avenues of the police department, from training to use of force to even looking into those search warrants, the same type of search warrant that was used in that police raid that ultimately ended in the death of Breonna Taylor. She was shot and killed by officers in March of last year, and obviously her death prompted national outrage. But tonight, everyone seems to be on board and supporting the Justice Department investigation investigating the Louisville Police Department. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he supports them looking into it. He said certainly not inappropriate. And even the police department itself, the chief saying today that they believe that this is a critical step to restoring the trust with the community, Lindsay.
And this, of course, comes on the heels of a similar investigation of the Minneapolis Police Department announced a day after that guilty verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. Is the Justice Department signaling that they plan to step up these pattern or practice investigations?
Yeah, Lindsay, they are, and it's really striking. This is the second investigation launched in just 1 week by Attorney General Merrick Garland, and this is a clear shift from the Trump administration. 2 investigations in just 5 days under the Trump administration over the course of 4 years. Only 1 investigation like this was launched. A very clear shift and a very clear signal coming from the Biden administration and the Justice Department tonight, Lindsay.
And again, I'm actually all for it. Keep in mind, Merrick Garland was just confirmed as the Attorney General. Keep in mind, he was also President Obama's pick to be Attorney General before Mitch McConnell decided to roadblock everything a black man wanted to do. What this actually means is that the Justice Department will be looking into the practices of both the Minneapolis Police Department as well as Louisville Police Department. Keep in mind, Minneapolis was actually where George Floyd was actually murdered by a police officer, and of course in Louisville, Kentucky, Breonna Taylor was also murdered by a police officer. So they are going to be looking into everything from procedures to arrests to cases that are currently still going on or still pending. And again, if there are some things or changes or charges need to be made, and of course they'll go from there. Again, I cannot be mad. However, I find it a little odd that Mitch McConnell's like, that'd be fine. I can't imagine him, of all people, being okay with the police being investigated, considering his support of the police. So either he feels they have nothing left. Either he feels that the Louisville Police Department has nothing to hide, or Daniel Cameron, his relative-in-law, will probably be railroading Department of Justice, which they couldn't do anyway. But let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if their tune changes, especially either in the Minneapolis or Louisville. But we'll see what happens if anything we're finding or any charges or anything of that nature gets done. Now, I keep telling you guys this next to last story that I have, guys. I keep telling y'all again about the midterms. The midterms are going to happen in 2022. And I have actually reported this a little bit earlier in this year about that some laws, especially southern laws, are starting to introduce voting bills that are eventually going to become laws because, let's be honest, they didn't like the turnout. Georgia being one of them. Georgia actually put in one of the most restrictive new voting laws signed by Brian Kemp, which is basically engineered to basically distract and also to dismay African American voters. And again, Florida itself is no different, as Florida Senate is actually moving forward a bill that would restrict limits on casting ballots by mail and drop boxes over the concerns of Democrats and voting rights activists. In other words, they're basically saying that they're being very restrictive on who can vote by mail, on who can use drop boxes, drop box locations, and also, my personal favorite, it also now says that voters have to apply for mail-in ballots more frequently, restricting who can drop off a voter's ballot at a drop box. And this is the coup de grace, which again is how extreme they're going. That they're making it a felony making it a felony that anybody but an official electoral official. I know that didn't sound right, but go with it. Anybody who's not with the electoral committee, if you hand out food and water and you're not with that group, it's a felony. That's the bill they're trying to pass through Florida right now. They'll make it a felony if you hand out food and water. What is this, the NCAA? If you're voting, and anybody who actually voted, especially this year, we had long lines, people waited for hours, social distancing made it longer, people got tired, people got hungry, people got thirsty. And what did a lot of these people do? A lot of people actually volunteered and brought food and brought water out to folks, not to sway their votes, but to say, here, you hungry, you thirsty, something like that. And now, not only Georgia, but now Florida, are now introducing these bills that will not only make it harder to vote, but you can't even feed or give somebody water without actually being fined or actually being a felon. And I keep telling you guys this. This is all Republicans. Republicans themselves are the only ones doing this. You don't see Democrats putting out new voting laws except for the Voting Rights Act, which would actually do the right things for voting, making the election a federal holiday so you don't actually have to worry about working and voting at the same time. The fact that making everything able to vote for you, voting by mail or doing it in person or dropping off a ballot box. The Voting Rights Act was supposed to protect us from these laws these states are trying to do right now. And again, who's holding it up? The very same people that want to change the goal lines because they did not like how the last election turned out. And trust me, there's a certain president right now who's dodging lawyers and depositions like a boxer in a ring because he himself doesn't have the presidential office to save him. But again, this is why I keep on telling you guys, be very aware of the changes that are happening in your state, especially when it comes to voting laws, and adjust accordingly because keep in mind, 2022, when that comes around, is going to be a very interesting election midterm year. But then, like I said, definitely keep in mind about those things. The last story I got, guys, is again, this is what actually worries me about people. Like I said, I don't just mean people, let's just be honest, it's mostly crazy white people. Crazy white people have been emboldened since Trump, and this dude is no different, but I always say karma's something else, just because eventually it will come back to haunt you. Such as in this story. This guy, Mr. Rhodes, who decided that he is going to verbally attack a woman who was delivering food with her 2-year-old child in the back. And keep in mind, it's a little bit graphic, but they did actually mute out some stuff. So audio discretion is advised.
Get the out of here. Hey, get the out of here. Get the out of here. I pay $1,000 a month here. You can't. You make $1,000 a 2 months. You.
How you know that?
You're a dumb black. You.
What's your name?
Yeah, and I'm racist, and I'm a racist motherfucker.
Look.
I got an AK-47 right now in my car. I'll blow your head off.
Look.
Get the out.
Crazy, right? The simple fact of the matter is, this dude was mad because a woman who was delivering food was in an area that he said he believed was his. Now, keep in mind, the guy lives in an apartment lot. Anybody who's ever lived in an apartment lot knows you don't have, unless you pay for personal parking, and trust me, with these days and age, you do pay a lot for personal parking. I can guarantee beyond a shadow of a doubt, you don't have a personal parking space. Especially if the simple fact of the matter is that you decide to go up to a complete stranger and turn around and berate them and say, I need you to move. I pay $1,000 a month. I wouldn't actually brag about that personally. And then, proceeds to berate the woman. You make $1,000 in 2 months. And then decide to go ahead and go with the classics. Decide to call her the N-word, and I was like, and I thought to myself the entire time, white people, if you do watch this podcast, and I'm not talking about the white people who choose peace, not violence, but I'm talking about the white people who decide to choose violence. Understand, y'all will keep doing that until you run into the wrong one, and when you run into the wrong one, your course will be corrected. I'm not saying with a can of twisted tea, but it could be that something along those lines. But again, with this story, which I said was it goes back again about karma. The one thing about karma itself is an amazing thing when she decides to pop up. Literally a day after that, the place he stayed at served a resident who was actually the one cussing out the black woman on the stage. Sent him a resident with a notice to leave the premises, and he has agreed to move. Yeah, it sounds like they served him an eviction notice, and he had no choice. And of course, the leasing company that owned the apartments, of course, sat there and said, we are committed to providing a safe, secure, and inclusive environment, and we will continue to take proactive steps to resolve the situation. So, crazy white people, I say it like this: if you feel that emboldened that you're gonna risk it all just to be able to say that word, be able to live with the consequences, because I guarantee that dude's gonna have a hard time trying to find an apartment. Mr. I pay $1,000 a month, but again, justice. With that being said, guys, I did want to move over to our feel-good story. Like I said here on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that sometimes are doom and gloom, sometimes are a little bit, a little bit hard to swallow, a little bit hard to get to, but I know this is the middle of the week, but we got that last push to get us over Friday Eve, which is Thursday, and then we get to Friday, and then, we can chillax. We can enjoy the weekend, and have a little bit of a reprieve, and I hope the story actually does it for you, because stories like this I always find interesting, because I always wonder about these kids who literally can graduate college and high school in the same week. This young man right here is about to do just that. Completed 4 years of school in 1 year, 2 years of high school, and a 2-year associate's degree. He will graduate not only from his community college, but also from the high school where he's valedictorian. The kid was already taking dual enrollment classes and realized that he didn't need that much just to go ahead and get his associate's degree by high school graduation. And why? A love of robotics. And I like that. I mean, he's a math and science guy, and I'm just thinking to myself, at 12 years old, he's already not only a high school graduate, but a college graduate. And I'm thinking to myself, that'll probably be the kid that gives us Skynet. But I just want to give the kid props because, again, I'm not going to say his name because he's a minor. But still, I mean, to graduate high school and the first part of college, because let's be honest, the first part of college, you're not really learning what you want to know. The first 2 years of college is nothing more than just a general education course. Actually, the first 2 years of college is like the last 2 years of high school. You're really not learning anything. You're just doing this just to get the credits so they can sit there and say they taught you something. But again, like I said, that kid where he's going, I mean, 12 years old and already graduating college and high school, wow. I mean, I gotta give him props. But with that being said, guys, that's really all I have for this podcast. So before I do get out of here, I do have to do some shameless plugging. And I do mean shameless. But I do thank everybody that watched, that liked, and this said I know you can't start watch parties anymore, but also subscribe. And I thank you for that. I apologize. I've got hiccups really bad. These hiccups want to kick my tail. But anyway, before I do get out of here, shameless plugging. The link at the bottom, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree, which has all of my YouTube and Facebook pages for all my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, my video game, television, and superhero podcast, Get Bit, and of course, the very extreme, and as the name implies, the Off Limits podcast as well. You can definitely like, share, and subscribe and see every video that I've done so far from each of those podcasts, whether on Facebook or YouTube. Just copy and paste the link that you see at the bottom to do so. Let me not forget about my friend who also is also watching this and has also shared my podcast, Big BZA Dot. He is definitely back in podcast form, and he is definitely missed. Because again, he definitely brings the other side of the podcasting world that I wish I could do, but he does so well. But anyway, Big BZ out on Facebook. Definitely go to his video section if you're his friend and like and share, and also look for his Big BZ out on social media. He is still actually, I think he's going to attempt to do a Rhythm Nest very soon, and I cannot wait for that. But in the meantime, he is still doing the BST, which is a news podcast that news can be music, video games, and trailers. I call Yvonne the king of the weird trailers because he finds some trailers that sometimes make me scratch our head and make me question our friendship, but I still love him. But he also does have, let's take this podcast, we're going to call it RAF. What is RAF? RAF is like America's Funniest Home Videos done by WorldStar, which means it's definitely for the adult and definitely not bring your kids, but still funny for the rest of us to enjoy to reset our weeks right. But all these shows can be found, like I said, on Big BZ on his Facebook page. So definitely like, share, and go from there. Of course, guys, I still do travel. So Uncle Obi's Travels, Adventures, and More seems to be picking up right now because a lot of people, as we try to restart America 3.0, people are starting to travel. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm the kind of guy that likes to look at travel and go, where would you like to go, and will you allow me to get you there? Because the whole point of Uncle Obi's Adventures and More is to accomplish two things: to allow you to get you to where you want to go and save money. Because that's the two biggest things you want from a vacation, right? To be able to go and have a little bit of money in your pocket, and that's where I come in. Because I'll go in and actually do the legwork, come back and say, well, this is how much it's going to be, and if you want to do it, then cool. And we basically go from there. Because at Uncle Obi's Adventures, we just don't sell travel, we sell great memories. You can reach out to me, Uncle Obi's Adventures on Facebook, or William Buchanan on Facebook, and let me know your travel from there. My $100 referral fee is still going strong, guys. As some people have found out, it has been very lucrative for them. What I mean by that is, if you refer somebody to me and they book travel with me, whether it's hotel, airfare, or rental car, and as long as they book travel, it's $100 in your pocket, no matter how you want it, whether it's cash, Cash App, or Bitcoin. Up to you. But there is no limit on referrals, so if you know 5 people, 50 people, or dare I say 500 people, then it's going to be a pretty good payday for you. But again, just like I said, it's a referral fee that'll never go away, just my way of paying it forward to those that bring me business. That being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about how the Frack we got here, it's all about staying informed. The whole point of this podcast is just for us to basically bring you all the information, all the facts, not try to persuade, not change your mind, allow you to make up your own mind and go from there. We do a lot better as a society when we're informed. When we're uninformed, we basically get Trump. When we're informed, we get our first Madam Black Vice President. Thank you for watching me this far. Aside from that, guys, please be safe about COVID-19. Please get vaccinated. Please do your shots. Thank you, essential people who are still working, keeping lights on for the rest of us. It's most certainly appreciated. Aside from that, guys, I hope to see you guys on Friday night for my Get Bit podcast, and of course on Saturday for the weekend edition of How the Frack We Got Here, and a little bit later on that night, the Alphonse podcast. Aside from that, guys, take care of each other. We'll get through this.